Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back to Joe Daddy's Garage. It is Monday, September 22nd, 2025. We only have a few months left until a new year. So we need to get as much done as we possibly can while we still have good weather and some time left. I hope everybody enjoyed the last video that I did dealing with the 68 fastback that you see here behind me and putting the front section together, the frame rails, torque boxes, all that sort of thing. I know that a lot of people like to see how these parts interact with each other and why. And so I try to demonstrate all that stuff. And if there's anything I can show you along the way that will help you with your project, that is what I'm trying to do. So I'm very happy. I know I'm very excited about the progress on this car. And I'm looking forward to the next phase. I'm not sure exactly. I know I still have to weld the cowl on, and I did weld in this other torque box, and so there's still a few things that need to happen before I can actually start putting in the suspension pieces. And as I mentioned previously, it's going to get a roll bar, and so I'm still debating on how that's going to play out. So I'm not sure exactly what the next video will be, but I know that I have to weld in the cowl and these sort of things. So I hope everybody's been enjoying these videos. I know that they've been getting maybe a little more traction than some of the other stuff that I've done, and I was really surprised. I did a condensed version of the Brooklyn Pony videos, like the first 5, and put them all in one longer video, and that has actually gotten quite a few views. I was kind of surprised by that, but it may mean that I need to do a little more of that with those videos from that project and get some more information out there for everybody. But as you know, that car, when I built it, it was built on just a body jig, body cart. It wasn't even a jig, so it was a body cart. This, of course, is on my trailer jig, and same process. I showed details again in the last video, how I measure and double check and fit and verify all these things before I do my welding stuff. As it is, if you're just checking in and want to see what's going on with my channel, this live stream I've been doing for probably 2 or 3 years now. And I do it on Monday nights at 7 o'clock, unless something has come up that I can't be here. And we try to talk about Mustangs. We try to talk about classic cars. And that to me is a range of 1955 to about 1980. That's my wheelhouse of cars that I probably know the best. But occasionally we do talk about other things. We may talk about a movie or something, or maybe even talk about food. It's hard to say. But I try to keep it entertaining as much as I can. Now, if you are just checking in and you want to be part of the live stream, I encourage you, ask questions or be involved. If you have some input for the live stream, that would be great. Otherwise, leave a comment and a thumbs up. Let YouTube know that you're watching this and you're enjoying watching some guy sit in his garage and talk to a camera. So with all that said, let's check in and see who's first in tonight. And that person is Rick Gain. So Rick says, hope everybody is doing well tonight. And you've noticed it looks like they've changed back to the smaller bubble. I don't have any input on that. So last week we did a live stream, and the little chat box here it was more broad and bigger words in it. And I don't know if I haven't changed that, and I guess it changed back to the way that it was. I haven't touched it. So let me see if there's there's nothing else. Wait, let me see what this does. Oh, there's a difference. Hold on a second. Classic. Oh. I'm not going to try that one, but that's minimal. Let's put it a classic. What's everybody think? Classic or bubble? Classic bubble. I'm going to go classic for now because I know a lot of people liked it last week. So I guess I can change it, but I didn't change it. It is where it's at. So here's another. I don't know if I give you a bell, but glad you're here, Rick. Terry Keithley. Good evening, everyone in Barry. Please hit a thumbs up and like button for Barry. Thank you kindly, Terry and Betty and the cats. So now I have to kind of like sit above above the bubble. Glad you're here, Terry. Jerry checking in from Jerry's Garage, the Money Pit. Good evening, all from Middle Tennessee. Welcome, Jerry. Robert, the Infernal Craftsman. Evening, all. Good evening, Robert. TJ. Hello, Barry, and good evening from the Mustang Field of Dreams, East Dublin, Georgia. Welcome, TJ. Glad you're here. Jerry is also checking in. Howdy, Barry. Howdy, all. Hope you all have a good car chat. Thank you, Jerry. David, the bowler hat guy. Hello, all. Good evening, Barry. Good evening, sir. Betty Keithley is also checking in. Not feeling well tonight, so I don't know if I will watch. Please give Barry a thumbs up and hit the like button. It is appreciated. Yes, it is. Thank you, Betty. Hope you get to feeling better. Steve Reed, the 68 Fastback is looking great. Thank you, Steve. I agree. I'm looking forward to getting even more onto this car. You know, as it comes together, the excitement builds. I'm already envisioning getting it off of the trailer jig, and getting suspension under it. You know, and then putting it up on the lift. Well, I'm gonna have to put it on the lift anyway before I put at least the rear suspension under it because there's going to be a lot of welding and fabricating. But I'm already picturing the process of putting it up there. So it's it is exciting. I'll give you an extra bell. I don't know if I gave you one or not. Roger, Hindsight 6'7", greetings from next door. Greetings, Raj. Glad you're here. Dave Conville, good evening, all. Evening, Dave. I know you talked about the what was it called? Torg, something like that. The racing they do with the old Model A's and stuff. And one of these days I'll have to come up there and check that out. Denny Alvey. Hello, everyone. Hello, Barry. Good evening from Paducah, Kentucky. Welcome, Denny. Rick Stevenson. Good evening, everyone. Busy at work tonight. Well, I'm glad you checked in. And now I can get a sip of coffee. Good stuff. Bob Shoemaker. Evening all from Oklahoma. Fangold is looking good. I agree, Bob. It's going to be a nice car. Richard Vogel. Good evening, Barry. It's great to be back in your shop. Well, likewise, Richard. Not in your shop, but it's nice to have you in my shop. Mr. Mikey, greetings from sunny southern Texas, Sir Barry. Thank you, Mr. Mikey. Michael Pagliarini, good evening, all. Good evening, Michael. Michael, I don't know if we've caught up. I know that you were dealing with the back half of your car, and I don't remember if you got everything figured out and put together the way it needed to be. Maybe you can give us an update on that so we can know what the status is. But here's an extra bell if I didn't give you one. Thomas Reyes. Hi, everyone from California. Is there an upgrade wiring for 70 Mustang Coupe or just big wiring like, I guess he's saying American Auto Wire? I don't know what options are available besides American Auto Wire and painless wiring. There's a company called Rebel Wire. I've used them for like my dune buggy project. They had a great wiring harness, but I don't know if they make it for like Mustangs or, Chevys or Fords or anything like that. I do like American Auto Wire because it comes with switches and stuff that are part of the kit. So I don't know if there's any other options available besides that. The nice part about those wiring harnesses also is they give you a bigger fuse block, So if you want to add some stuff to it, or if you might have modern fuses, that you can put those in, and it makes it a little more convenient. But good question, Thomas. Ronald Alcorn, good evening all. Good evening, sir. Ed Cucharella, hello all from California. Hello, Ed. Whoops, wait a minute. There we go. Yeah, glad you're here, Ed. I don't know if you're working on anything in particular right now, but I do like your thumbnail of your Ranchero, so that's pretty cool. I've been just staying busy out in the garage and making progress where I can, and also doing things for friends of mine. I occasionally, as I said before, I do maintenance for other people. May do brake jobs or oil changes and stuff like that. And so I've been catching up on some of that stuff as well. Currently, with the Fastback project, as I mentioned, the next phase, once I get the cowl done and everything else, is probably going to have to be getting either the roll bar in or the suspension. And I can't put the roof on until I have the, well, I could, but I don't want to put the roof on until I have the roll bar in place. So, in the 2 videos ago, I think it was, I went into the detail of the rain gutters and fitting the roof and all that sort of thing. I also didn't show it. I didn't realize I didn't put it on a video, but I had pulled out all the pieces for the back of the car, meaning I already had the tail panel up there, but I was mocking the little corner pieces that go from the tail panel to the side of the trunk opening, and then the bumper brackets. I was checking those, and those lined right up, thankfully. And then I have the mount piece for the trunk latch. And so all that is, I just have it sitting in there right now, but it's all looking, like it should just fit without a problem. So I haven't shown that in the videos yet. And as you also know, because I'm sitting here and I'm thinking about it, I showed in the last video my handy dandy Canon camera. Now, I've made a lot of videos with this camera. Actually, I've made a lot of videos with 3 different versions of this camera. This is the 800 series. I had a 700, and I had like a 400 or something. Yeah. And what I've run into is this. I can flip the camera open, and I get no images on the screen. So I know that there's a life on these things, right? So you're sitting here operating something over and over and over, flipping this open, flipping it back, flipping it open, and eventually it's going to wear out. Now, I bring this up because for a couple of reasons, but one of those, I don't know what that noise is. One of those is we have to realize that not everything's going to last forever, right? And I've gone through 2 of these, and I want to show you something because I like to fix things. And if you remember, I had burned the lens on this camera with welding slag. And so I had to swap the lens out. And I did that by buying a junk, or actually the one that quit working prior to this one. And I had taken it apart, and I had removed the lens. This is the burnt lens. And so what I'm getting at is I have taken apart the previous camera. This is the R400 model. And I took it apart because I'm going to try to swap out the little camera door. And if it works, I'll be impressed with my abilities, because this thing, these super fine little connectors, but I just started taking it apart. And let me also add to that, whenever you're doing projects and you run into, in my case, a situation where I needed to be able to take this apart, I have to say I am so happy that we have access to Amazon. Now, I'm not going to tilt this up. this little screwdriver kit is saving me right now. You know, whenever you're trying to work on something and you need something like these little tiny screwdrivers, and you can go on Amazon and say, hey, I want this, and it shows up the next morning, that's pretty cool. It actually is pretty cool. I know we may complain about Amazon and different things, but that's the reason that I like Amazon, is because here I am. I can now fix this camera that I need to have. But the other thing I wanted to say was, as a kid, I don't know if I have a ratchet laying here. I thought I did. As a kid at my dad's junkyard, it was pretty common for me to take a ratchet with an extension on it and hold the extension and just spin the ratchet around. You know, you got that nice click, 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 click sound. There's something good about that. It was like a fidget, whatever those little fidget toys are, when I was a teenager. Oh yeah. So fidget spinner, right? So this is my fidget spinner. Now, I bring this up because as we talk about the camera failing because of overuse, my dad said something one time, and it sticks with me. I don't always live by it, but he said, every time that ratchet goes around, that's one less time it's going to work. He's right. But that didn't stop me, because we had Craftsman ratchets and you could take them back to the store. But that's what's going on with this camera. Every time that you open that thing up, that's one less time it's going to work, and it's actually quit working. So just thought that was kind of funny. Anyway, let's move on to see who's here. Okay, Michael, no, I have not had any time in about 2 months. Hope to get back in the garage soon. Miss the me time. Yeah, I understand that. I spend a lot of me time out here in my garage. Richard Barry, can you recommend a decent filter regulator for an air compressor? You know, I can't point at one and say this is like the ideal situation. The one that I have, when you say a filter regulator, so you're talking about like a oil separator or a dryer system. They have those available on Amazon, and I've looked at those. I actually have a kit that is secondary on my in my paint booth. So like on my paint booth system, I have a RTI is the company. I don't remember the name of the filters, but there's a water separator and like a oil separator or something. And those are not cheap. Those are pretty expensive filters. But then after that, I also have another water separator system. I can't say one is better than the other as far as the brands. I know that I've looked on Amazon, and the only thing I question is if you're going to get something that has like a desiccant dryer or, you know, needs to have elements replaced, is the idea of, are they going to be available? That's the only concern that I usually have. Now, for a simple water separator, I have one. You can't see it now because the front end's on the car. I have one from Harbor Freight, the blue one. I can't figure out what the name of that, what their company is. Quinn, maybe Quinn. I don't remember. But anyway, I have one of those on the wall. But I changed out the bottom of it because it had a petcock on it, and it was very difficult to operate. And I changed it to a ball valve. So just, you know, a little upgrade on one of those things. But I don't have any that I can say, yes, this is the one I recommend. I just look at the longevity of this stuff and the options available for filters. That RTI kit that I have in the paint booth, we had that on our paint booth in the body shop back in 2005, 6, all the way up till 13 when we bought a bigger, a better system. But even now, that RTI kit, my PPG rep, who also paints at he's got a shop at his home shop, he has that same filtration system. So it depends on what you're looking for, and again, look at the longevity or the replaceability of parts. You know, that's about all I can offer on that. Steve's Money Pit, I'm here but late. That's okay. You have to bring the donuts when you're late. Yeah. Richard, can you provide the Amazon link for the jeweler's screwdriver kit? Yeah, I can probably post it on my Amazon page. I could probably do that, but I can't post it like here. Michael, the last few months I have gotten back into the vintage shoots. Vintage shoots. I'm not sure what you're saying with that. Vintage. Okay. Give us some more information. David, do you have the core support welded in? No, it is not. And as I mentioned I think in a previous video, I'm debating on welding it in just yet for access. So like, I can put it in, I can clamp it in, put it in place. Nothing's going to change. The core support does nothing but hold the radiator, right? And so if it's welded in, it's great. But if it's out of the way, then I can work on the suspension easier, I feel. But we'll see how it goes. I will probably, I'll clamp it in place and then see how things progress from there. But right now, I don't feel the need to weld it in solid just yet. Travis, good evening all. I won't be able to watch. Well, sorry to hear that. Travis is one of my top 5 patrons, but apparently he's got something important to do, and that's fine. Yeah, I'm still trying to figure out what Michael was saying. I've gotten back into the vintage shoots, so I have to figure that out. Oh, building airplanes. Well, nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that. One of these days, I'm going to get my own, probably, RC, a remote control trainer airplane. I've been flying with I have a couple times gone to my buddy's place and done some flying with him, with his hobby, whatever the hobby, I don't know what the hobby zone or something. They have an RC trainer, and it has a pusher prop on the back of the wings. So if you do nose it over, you don't mess up the prop. So it's been a lot of fun flying that, and I'm probably going to have to get one of those. But that's as far as I'm going with building airplanes at this point. Nandu, good evening, Barry and everyone. Hope you're doing well. Likewise, Nandu. Glad you're here. Gig'em Garage, Kevin Barth here. Good evening, Barry. Good evening, sir. I like your little logo. Looks like a 68, I guess. Travis, I build the big ones that Delta uses. Okay. Well, I may have worked on one of, I don't know how long you've been doing that, but I may have worked on one of the planes that you built at some point during my career. You know, it's funny, as you mentioned that, Delta, I had a friend contact me this past week, and he still works out there, and he was asking me some questions, and we were just talking about stuff, and he said, "Hey, if they ask you to come back out here as a contractor, will you do it?" I'm like, no. I'm done. I did enjoy my time there, and I learned, I did a lot for the company, and the company took care of us. As that's a great company to work for. But I've drawn that line in the sand. It would have to be a pretty substantial contract for me to want to go back out there and do that stuff. However, in that conversation, we're probably going to have a get together with a group of former shop people that I worked with, So that's a good thing. Haven't seen some of these guys in a good 5 years. So we'll do a get together. Michael says World War II military style rifle, 300 yards open sight. Okay, now that makes sense. Yeah, I remember. Well, of course, World War II military style rifle or type rifle. So, and then whenever I was in the military and we had to do qualification, shooting the M16s and 300 yards with open sights, that was pretty good. And I think they've done away with that. I think now they've got ACOGs or whatever to help them, with their shooting. But in my day, back in my day, we had to shoot with open sights and qualify with open sights. But that's okay. So Rick sent me a pic of what he's working on. Let me see if I can pull that up. Okay. The clock is ticking and there it is. So here's what Rick works on. That's a bit different. Thanks, Rick. Pretty cool. Richard, did the 68 have the VIN stamped on the inner fender aprons? Yeah. Yep. They have. That's where they're on the fender apron, but the important one is up here on the dash. On the 68s, it's the only year they did it. They put the 68 VIN number. It's really weird. They put the VIN number on the right side. I don't know why they did that, but they started that in 68, and then 69, it went to the other side. So on a 67 and earlier car, they're going to be up here in the aprons, and those are more important to have. The 68 isn't so critical if you have the the VIN up here on the dash. Mr. Mikey, M14 in my day. Yep. Rich Watley, what's up, everybody? Welcome, Rich. Glad you're here. There was something else I was going to mention as we were going through these topics. Now it's escaped me. It's escaped me. Oh, I had somebody ask me the other day when I'm going to be getting back on my Mach 1. And I said, I have no idea. As you all know, I get lots of people asking me for help, or they want me to work on their cars and do work, right? Do sheet metal work or paint work and all these different things. And so, I'll get to my car when I get to my car, but the conversation went from, hey, when do you think you're going to get to your car, to, hey, do you want to sell it? And I was like, I don't think so. But the funny part was, in that conversation, when he asked me, when I was going to get to it, and I responded, and then he had texted me, and I was away from my phone, but I was welding on this car. I was putting stuff together, taking time. And when I responded to him saying, I don't think so, he was like, that seemed like a long pause, like he was thinking that I was thinking it over. And I said, well, I'm in the middle of welding this car together, so I can't really stay here on the phone the whole time. But I think he was interested in buying my 69. And I was like, no, I don't think it's going to go anywhere. Let's see. TD, welcome TD. I watched your video on installing a new torque box. I have a 68 coupe that had a cosmetic restoration 30 years ago. It has some torque box rust. Would it be best left alone? That's a very hard question to answer. I mean, without seeing it and without knowing exactly what you're dealing with, and also what you're doing with the car. So I posted a picture on Facebook the other day of a 66 Mustang that the whole front end was ripped off of it. That was probably hit by a train. I don't know. But those cars didn't have the torque boxes. And so the strength wasn't as good as the later cars. So when you're talking about a torque box, if you're just driving this car, going to cruise-ins, stuff like that, and your likelihood of being in a wreck or something is minimal, it may not be worth it to mess with. But if you want to do something and feel safer about it, then it may be something you want to pursue. The problem you're going to run into whenever you start taking things apart is what you find when you get there. So if you go back to my 68 Mustang Jade videos and you look at one of the first or second or third video that I did on that playlist, that was one of the first things I tackled was the floor pan and the torque boxes. Now the torque box didn't look that bad until I started digging into it. And when I did, I discovered that even the bottom half of the outer frame rail was rotted off. And so I had to rebuild that just to put a new torque box in. So just be cautious. You know, if you don't want to mess with it, it probably hasn't mattered much in its lifetime. But I also think about the safety of having a solid car under my feet. So hard to give you a good answer other than that. But take a look at those videos and maybe it'll give you some insight as to what you really have going on. Good question. Richard, thank you for your help tonight, Barry. Well, you're welcome. Extra bell for you. Rich Watley, love my Vortex Razor. Vortex Razor 1 through 6. Only thing I can see with my astigmatism. What do we? I don't know what we got. What are we talking about? Vortex Razor? Unless you're talking, I don't know. I don't know what that is. Michael, I use a M1 Garand. That was my dad's. Back in 2010, I took third at the state level. Right now, sitting in sixth. That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. When I was in the military, just since we're talking about this, and I don't know if that's what Jerry. I don't know if that's what he's talking about. Vortex Razor. I don't know. But back when I was in the military, 40 years ago, we just had a 40-year reunion of my 10th Mountain guys, and I wasn't able to go. So, you know, we were given M16s, and I was actually issued a Colt 45, and then we got the Beretta 9mm. And by default, I was I shot pistol. So I had to qualify, you know, in basic training with an M16, and then as a regular carry piece, I carried the 9mm. And so by default, I ended up on our pistol team, and did very well with that. I really enjoyed those competitions, and it was funny because we would go to these matches, and it was just a bunch of PFCs and specialty 4s, and we're shooting against these guys who would show up with match Gold Cup whatever pistols and they had all the blinders on and the eye cover thing and these shields, and we got Army issue earplugs and nothing, and we're out there competing with these guys, and we were beating them, and they were getting mad about it. But I really did enjoy shooting the pistol competitions. And, you know, we would have to do a lot of dry fires because they didn't give us much ammunition. So we had to do dry fire training. And when we did go out to the field and train, we would set up our own little competitions. And I know I'm off tangent here, but I'm just going to talk about this. We would set up our own little competitions, and one of those was we took some 550 cord and tied a golf ball at a length of about probably 15 inches off of a piece of metal, and then release the golf ball and let it swing back and forth, pendulum swing, and at about 20 yards, I was able to shoot that golf ball out of that pendulum swing and launch it. It was, and my buddies were all like, "There's no way you just did that." And I said, "Yeah, there is." So, yeah, I really did. I enjoyed shooting a lot. I wish I could do more of that. I just don't. I don't have the time or the resources to go do those things, but I really did enjoy that. So Rick Stevens says a Vortex Razor 1-6 is a rifle scope. Okay, that's kind of what I thought, but I wasn't real sure. Thank you, Rick. Hey, Matco man, sneaking in on us. Glad you're here, sir. David, the Bullheart guy, dry fire training is great for muscle memory. It is, and I don't know if people even know. I'll talk about that since we're on this discussion. Now there's things you can do. You can buy dry fire rounds for a pistol that basically so your firing pin isn't getting beat up on your when you're shooting, pretending to shoot. But when you dry fire training, if you really want to train yourself on how to handle a pistol, I know I'm going way off tangent here, but what we would do is we'd set lay a dime on top of the end of the barrel, okay? And you'd have to hold that dime while you're extending your arm, and then slowly squeeze the trigger. Now, if you have good control, you will squeeze that trigger and that dime will not fall off the barrel. And if you are one that anticipates when that trigger is going to release, you're going to knock that dime off the barrel every time. And that's how people become poor shots, is they anticipate when that action is going to happen. And so they're trying to push or flinch and anticipate it. But if you do that put a dime on top of the barrel and you just cycle through slowly, you learn trigger control and gain muscle memory. And that is a very, very good way to do those things. So I'll get back to car stuff. Hey, Matt Command, Pour 15 or KBS or nothing except paint. So I'm familiar with Pour 15. I don't know what KBS is. And when you say or nothing except paint, your question is too big. I don't know what you're referring to. As in, are you talking about body paint? Are you talking about chassis? Are you talking about cavities? Give us some parameters and tell me what KBS is, because I don't have time to look it up. Or just give me what you're really trying to ask, because Pour 15 has its place, but it has, my understanding, it has no UV protection, so it's tough to deal with in those aspects. But otherwise, if you're doing any kind of bare metal, epoxy is your thing you want to go to. But give me some more information. Norris Net, almost have all the body parts needed to get started on the fastback. Awesome. Well, you've got some good videos to follow right here. You already know that. I gotta drink more coffee. Yeah, the weather has been tricky we started having cooler weather, and then it started coming back up again, and now it's starting to angle off a little more. So, oh, Travis, awesome. Thank you, sir. Thank you for that. I do appreciate that. Awesome. Very good. I like that. And he says, for your last video about the measurements. Yeah. Well, and that's why I do those things. I mean, not to get the super sticker, but I want people to see the process. And that's why when I express test fitting, right? It's one thing to just push these parts together and go, yeah, that might work. But you really need to assemble as much of the car as you possibly can and look at everything and see where it's going. As I expressed in that video, your measurements could be close, they could be off, but that may not matter if you have the end result on the outside. Now, when I say it may not matter, I'm not talking like an inch, of difference. I'm talking a quarter, maybe 3/16, an eighth. And we all get excited about, oh, this is off an eighth of an inch when I do a crisscross measurement. No, it's not. If you're measuring an eighth of an inch, if you're at 5 1/8 on one side and 5 on the other, you're a 16th off, because by the time you compensate one to the other, it's now only a 16th of an inch. So that's why I do these things. I want people to understand and see the process and how I do it, and maybe it'll help them, like with you and your projects. Norrisnet, yes, I will be watching them many times. Great info. Thank you, sir. Michael Pagliarini, I do the Winter Pistol League. I shoot custom 1911 and a Pardini SP. Yeah, I don't know what that is. I know about the 1911, but I don't know what a Pardini is. Like I was saying, we showed up at these things. We didn't have any special gizmos or gadgets, and these guys are shooting these Gold Cup, high-end, super tuned pistols with hair triggers, all that stuff. No, we didn't have any of that. We were off-the-shelf Beretta 9mm. Robert, still mid-90s here till tomorrow, and may finally cool after that. Sadly stuck here with the heat instead of flying out on vacation in an hour. Yeah. Well, sometimes that's the way things are. We all know that. I know I missed out on 2 events this weekend I wanted to do. One was my military reunion. There's in Washington, you can look this place up if you want. Washington County LLC or Washington County Shooting Range LLC or something. Buddy of mine that I served with has a shooting range up in Pennsylvania, and he has all kinds of goodies. And I've shown videos on here of some of the stuff that I've done with that event, and he had set it up for us all to meet up there and have cookouts and all the stuff. I couldn't go. I wanted to, but it just wasn't happening. And then the other thing was there was a tractor show locally, and I missed out on it. Kind of fun to do, but it is what it is. Sometimes you have to do all these other things, right? Okay, so Macco Man, KBS is like POR 15, but I guess with UV protection for like floorboards, rockers, I was going with cavity wax. Okay. So in like the rocker panels, and I've not used cavity wax. I know in the collision industry we use cavity wax. What I've done with, and I've shown a video on this too, in Jade in particular, what I do is I take either POR 15 or Chassis Saver, and I put it inside the rocker panels, and I blow it in with an extended air tube, air nozzle. And I blow that stuff all over the place inside of there. So that's how I do it. But that's what I put in, either chassis saver or Pour 15. Now, I also did a video with the Brooklyn Pony where I did a sprayable. It was a spray can with a nozzle on the end of it that had a sprayer that spread out, and so you could put it inside that cavity and pull it out and spray it. And as you did, it sprayed into those chambers. But that's what I've used. And Pour 15, like if you're using floorboards, it's good. I've used it on my Model A. Like I did the inside of the doors. It's great for inside of the doors, inside the quarter panels, stuff like that. It's pretty good for the if you want to use it in your floor pans. You might want to add some texture to it. And what I mean is the Pour 15 will be really slick. Like if you put it on a floor pan and you try to put carpet on top and you get in the car and you push with your feet, it's probably going to want to slide or try to break loose, right? So you may want to add some sand or something to it. And they actually sell like bed liner kits that also works well. In my dune buggy, I used a bed liner kit. It was a roll-on thing, and you had grit that you put in with it, and it was fantastic. When I had it in the dune buggy, I could my feet didn't slide around. So just keep that in mind, that Pour 15 will be really slick. So if you throw some sand or something, there's grit to help it hang on to stuff. Gene, hey y'all, been a minute. Welcome, Gene. Gene actually came by here for a visit a couple weeks ago, so I enjoyed that time together. We got to talk about some things. Robert says, in my opinion, Pour 15 isn't a bad product, but I prefer any kind of sprayable paint that uses a hardener instead. There you go. Well, a lot of times I like even like Rust-Oleum. I mean, Rust-Oleum is a tough paint. It doesn't dry fast. It takes it a while to cure. But I've used it. I actually have used even brushable or Rust-Oleum, but it's pretty good too for what it does. Mr. Mikey, KBS is a rust seal Amazon $40 a quart brush on. Okay. Well, maybe I have to look that up. Dave Tyson, good evening all. Good evening, Dave. Late is fine. You have to bring donuts though when you're late. That's the rule. David, cavity wax will keep the ball bearings from making so much noise inside the rockers. That is true. That is true. As I was thinking back about the Brooklyn Pony, I joked about it back then too, but I should have probably put some ball bearings in that car. That deserved ball bearings in the rocker panel. Rich, nothing beats Master Coat Silver for rust-proof primer. Okay. All right. I'll take your word for it. I'm not familiar with that product, but Travis, if you use Rust-Oleum Rust Converter, it dries in like 1 minute. Oh, wow. Okay, that's worth knowing. Robert, I've used the Rust-Oleum Professional Spray Cans with excellent results and same with the gallon cans. Much better product than it gets recognition for. I agree. Rust-Oleum, when we think about that, we think about it it's a rattle can spray paint. It doesn't, it's not that good, but it is actually a very tough paint, and I have no problem using it in a variety of places. Gene, I enjoyed my visit as well. Never made it to the museum. We had 2 RV breakdowns and spent the day trying to resolve the issues. Still on the list, though. Oh, man. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. When you're out doing a road trip and something, and you have something break down, that's no fun at all. That is no fun at all. But if you get a chance to see the Savoy Museum when, if you come back that way, stop in and check it out. And you're welcome to stop by here again if you want. I get no problem with that either. Travis says, I'll send you something, Barry. Okay, well, that's fine. That's fine. I won't turn it down. I appreciate that. Now, the other thing I need to talk about as well, once I get ready to do the cowl, and I know you've all seen me do this before, where I take the chimneys, the little chimneys inside here, and I put a seam sealer around those. I watched a video earlier today that I forget who it was. Somebody had linked me in their video, and I gave them some comments on that. But they had done the same thing. They had used the seam sealer, because I use a brushable seam sealer, and put it around those chimneys just in case any water gets in there. The other thing I'll do typically is clean these up and spray these with Rust-Oleum. Now there's some, I've talked to some people who have, because the factory didn't do anything. The original cars had nothing in there. That's why they rusted out so bad. But I have seen some people put a piece of plastic inside, like saran wrap type plastic, thin plastic. And what they've done though is they've painted the inside of the cowl body color, which is fine. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. They painted it body color and then put that plastic inside the cowl whenever they welded it together. Okay. And then when it was finished, whenever they left that in there until they finished painting the whole car. And then they grabbed it through this hole right here and pulled it out of that hole so that they could have a finished paint on the inside of the cowl. I'm not against doing that, but I feel like it may be a little risky. Like, what happens if that doesn't come out? Like, you're trying to pull that piece of plastic out and it gets hung in there. And now you've got this piece of plastic floating around inside of there as well. So I feel better about just spraying it good with Rust-Oleum, welding it together, and not have to think about it from that point forward. Jeff, has anyone used a Roadster shop spec chassis before? I don't know. I don't know anybody who has. I don't have any information on that. Is that what are you planning on putting that under your car? Is that the idea or one of your thoughts? Because that would be interesting. That would be pretty cool. But no, I have not dealt with that or even looked into it. So, let me think what else. Oh, as I mentioned previously, once I get everything done up here, right, then I have to work on getting suspension parts in here. Now, the system that we're using is the same as what was in the Brooklyn Pony car. And so I already have some ideas, and I'm kind of curious. Whenever I did the Brooklyn Pony car, I noticed that there was some of the measurements they had given were not correct, or there was something I can't remember. I may go back and look at my own videos and try to remember what was off. But I had to make adjustments of that kit to get it square. And so, I'm hoping they've changed some things. Like in the back of the car, it has these sleeves that go up over the frame rails. And the original setup, the sleeves were narrow to fit the factory frame rails, but the dynacorn frame rails are wider. And so that thing just it wouldn't fit, and I had to modify it. So I'm hoping they've made some changes to their product. So Jeff is thinking about the Roadster Shop spec chassis. That sounds pretty cool, Jeff. I hope you can pull that off. I hope it all goes together. TD, if you were selling a vintage Mustang, do you think you should point out some floor pan and torque box rust, or is that up to them to look for? Oh, that's a tough question. That's a tough question. And I say it's a tough question because I tend to point out everything. I'm just that way. Like when I sold Jade, I made sure he understood every little aspect of that car. Now, of course, that car was completely rebuilt nose to tail. But I wanted him to understand what this did and what that did and why and all these sort of things. And I've sold cars to people I know, Mustangs, and of course, they already know the cars. They already know what's going on with these cars. But I also said, look, let me show you this. So they knew. And they trusted me enough. I already told them it had rust before they ever saw them. And they knew what they were coming after. So it's, on one hand, I understand that the people need to do their own research. And they need to understand what they're getting into. But on the other hand, I'm kind of like, hey, by the way, there's some rust in the rocker panel or whatever. You know, that's just how I operate. I'm not saying either way is wrong, because I've been to places and I bought cars from people and they've said absolutely nothing to me, and I knew I'm buying it as is, and I stress that. They stress that. They'll say, hey, this car is as is. What you see is what you get, and that kind of lets you off the hook a little, because you're saying to them, I want you to look the car over, and if you find anything, that bothers you, then that's you, you know. So that's kind of the way you can deal with it as well. It's a really tough question to answer. It really is. But I know I probably give too much information whenever I'm doing something like that. But thank you for that. That is a good question. Mr. Mikey, what is your take on sheet metal behind the rear seat coupe for a fire brake? I did a video on that. On Jade, I put in the sheet metal behind the back seat. So they sell that piece. You can buy it, or you can make your own. Now, the tricky part of making your own is finding a place that will sell you a piece of sheet metal as big as the back seat. Right? So you'd have to make a cardboard template. Fine. Cut that thing out. Fine. I did it the easy way, and I ordered one with a bunch of other parts from like CJ Pony or something. And so I like the idea. I do like that idea. It's a great safety feature to add that behind the back seat. So, but I did a video on that on Jade. Good question. Doyle says, how are you feeling? I hurt my back adjusting the door. Still trying to get over that. What a drag it is getting old. Yeah, it is. I'm feeling pretty good, but I'm tired. I've had some events this weekend that kept me up late, got me up early, and so I haven't been maybe as motivated today as I am on every other day. But yeah, the back. And let me ask you: did you figure out the hinges? We talked about last week about making the holes oblong so that the door could move. Were you able to do that? Also, I mean, I don't know what you're using to adjust the doors, but I've used a jack and blocks of wood because there's old, your car's got massive, heavy doors, and just had it on a jack with a block of wood to try to get it into place. Obviously, there's work involved in trying to twist it and turn it and manipulate it. But yeah, especially if it had all the glass and stuff in it, that would be even worse. Dave Tyson says use an old hood for sheet metal. Yeah, that could work. Or an old roof. You could use an old roof too. That would be a simple, simple thing. I say simple thing. It's funny as I think about that. My dad at the junkyard house, the roof it was an old shingle or like a cedar shingle roof, and it was going bad. And so my dad created this system where he would bring cars that he was hauling in for scrap. He would cut the roof off of these cars, and he had a dimension, which was, I don't know if it was 3 feet by 3 feet. I don't remember what the dimension was, but he would salvage the roof skin out of these cars that he was taking to the scrap place. And he built this jig where he could bend a flange on 2 corners coming this direction, or 2 sides, let's say, meeting each other. And then if he flipped it over, you'd put another set of bends on that flange, right? So essentially you ended up with these hooks. So he roofed our house with car roofs. He put all they had to do was hook on each other. And it was like all these pieces just interlocked, and he re-roofed the house with car roofs. So there you go. There's your idea for re-roofing your house. Rick says they make an overpriced tool called a door dolly, which helps align the door. Saw it on TV. Stacy David advertised it. Yeah. There's a bunch of stuff that they offer that is helpful. It is, especially when you're doing it by yourself. It's nice to have something. But they do, a lot of that stuff is overpriced. I was looking at I was at a paint store a while back, and they had on display this metal rack that had all these cool options on it for hanging parts or a hood or whatever. And I was looking it over, and I was like, I don't know if I want to invest in this. Then I looked online, and it's like a $200 rack. I was like, I can make one. So that's normally what I do is I make something. Hey, Macaman says, or trunk lid, yes. Yeah. Trunk lid might be, on the Mustang, might be a little bit small. Depending on, you'd have to lay a back seat on it to get a feel for it, see how it looked. Let's see. Doyle, I haven't removed the new hinges yet. I did find the original ones to compare. Okay. Well, that's good. TD, when you install a new fuel tank, what sealant, if any, do you use? Also, how do you get the new fuel pump, the new fuel up to the fuel pump? Those are actually 2 good questions. So let me give you one answer. They do sell a sealant. It's like a mastic material that went between the trunk lid and the floor pan. And it's like a sticky, I don't know, not an 1/8 inch thick, but it's like a mastic material. And it's meant for anti-vibration more than anything, and to keep moisture out. So you could use that. They do sell other, I don't know if I have one up here. I did have some foam. I'd use some foam in the stainless up here on the 69 car. They sell a 1-inch foam on Amazon. It's sticky on one side. And you could probably get away with that because all you're doing is creating anti-vibration for the most part. So you could probably get away with that if you wanted to. The other choice would be you could put some silicone down and just set the tank in, let it settle, run your screws, and just forget about it. So there's a variety of things you can do. Now, as far as getting fuel to the fuel pump, typically it'll create a vacuum. Like, as long as you have fuel in your tank and you crank it over, the fuel pump will pull that fuel from the fuel tank. Now, if you wanted to, and I'm not saying do this, if you wanted to get fuel up to the fuel pump, you could loosen the nut on the fuel line. And I'm just saying this isn't the best choice. I'm just giving you an option. You could take an air hose and turn down the pressure and put a rag around the filler neck and just put a little air on that and let somebody up front watching, and you can just gently push some air into the fuel tank and the fuel will flow to the front. So, you know, just simple thing like that. But it will pull fuel. It will pull fuel. So don't overthink it. Good questions. C&J Hoyt, hi all. It's a butyl tape that you're thinking of for the tank. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, I said mastic, butyl tape. That's fine. Really, just about, you know, like Doyle's or Dave is saying seam sealer. Seam sealer will work, but I don't know if I want to use seam sealer. Typically, seam sealer, once it's in, it's there to stay, and the fuel tank should be there to stay anyway. But if you need to take it back out, it may be a challenge with seam sealer. So, but yeah, butyl tape will work. There's a variety of things. It doesn't have to be anything super incredibly strong. Just you're creating an anti-vibration. TD, such great answers. Thanks. Oh, you're welcome. You know, and I'm not saying, you know, with the airline thing, I've done that before. Gentle air pressure. I've even done it with my mouth. Blowing in the opening and just putting my lung pressure against the fuel and was able to get it. But use an air hose. You don't want to be breathing the fumes. Those were more desperate times when I was young and had trouble getting a car started. So I had to do something to get the fuel up front. Rick says, I'm going to pull the cover and start my car tomorrow. Need to hear it run. It won't move, but I'll hear the 302 roar to life. That sounds awesome. Oh, that's the other thing I wanted to bring up. Rick has expressed to me that he has a car he's looking at selling. And it belonged to his dad. And he asked me to mention it. So I'm going to mention it. And so it's a 2005 Mustang with a V6 in it. And it only has 38,000 miles on it. 38,000 miles. And Rick, you could probably give me some more information. I know that it's had some accessories added to it, right? Trying to remember what. It has dual exhaust and Shelby wheels. Shelby items added to it. So the problem is we don't know what it's worth. It's hard to say, you know, what's this car worth. But it's with 38,000 miles. If anybody's watching this, the car's in New Jersey, I can tell you that. But it is a 2005 Mustang with Shelby add-ons, 38,000 miles, V6, and I'm sure it's an automatic. So anybody watching this, if you're interested, email me, okay? And my email's at the bottom of the screen, joedaddysgarage@gmail.com. And I will hook you up with Rick. You know, I don't know what this car is worth. I have no idea. But if you're interested at all, then let me know and we'll see if we can't get people together. So, Dave Tyson, like running out of gas. Yeah. Okay, so Rick says, 05 Mustang with Shelby stripes, cold air intake, mint condition except for scratch on driver's fender. wind veil blue, black stripes, and black leather interior. So 38,000 miles on an '05 Mustang V6. So again, if anybody's watching, email me. It's down at the bottom of the screen, joedaddysgarage@gmail.com. No apostrophe S, just all letters, and go from there. And maybe we can do something. So there we go. Okay, I am now at the end of my night. I'm hungry. I need to get in the house and get something to eat. And my voice is starting to get really rough. So I want to thank you all for being here and watching. I do plan to be back next Monday. Should not be any problem with that. So I will be here next Monday night at 7 o'clock, and hopefully we have some more to talk about and another video to talk about. But that'll be it for tonight. So once again, thanks for watching, and until next time, take care of yourselves. See ya.